Ever wonder why some homes end up with thousands of dollars in water damage when the plumbing looked perfectly fine the day before? I'll tell you, it's almost never a freak accident. 9 times out of 10, it's a small mistake that's been quietly building for weeks, months, sometimes years. After 3 decades in the trade, I've walked into basements and crawl spaces and seen destruction that all started with one thing a homeowner didn't know or forgot to check. Today, I'm walking you through 10 fatal plumbing mistakes that can destroy your home. And most folks are making at least 2 or 3 of these right now without realizing it. Number 9 is one I've seen take down entire pipe runs from the inside. And stick around for the bonus tip at the end, because that one alone could save you from a disaster while you're sound asleep. The first mistake on this list, and honestly the one that frightens me the most, is not knowing where your main water shutoff valve is. I've lost count of how many times I've been called to a home where water is gushing from a burst supply line or a failed water heater, and the homeowner is standing there helpless because they have no idea how to stop the flow. Every second that water runs unchecked, the damage gets worse. Soaked subfloors, buckled hardwood, ruined drywall, and mold that starts growing within 48 hours. Your main shutoff valve kills all water flow into the entire house with a single turn. In homes with basements, it's almost always on the street side wall near where the main line enters the foundation. In slab homes or warmer climates, check the garage, a utility closet, or a ground-level box near the curb. If it's a ball valve with a lever handle, turn the lever perpendicular to the pipe. If it's an older gate valve with a round handle, turn clockwise until it stops. Now here's the thing. If that valve hasn't been touched in years, it may be seized from mineral buildup. Don't force it, or you risk snapping the stem. Apply penetrating oil, let it sit overnight, and try again gently. If it still won't budge, have a plumber replace it with a modern quarter-turn ball valve. That upgrade runs a couple $100, and it's worth every single penny. Know where your shutoff is, confirm it works, and make sure every adult in your household can find it and operate it without hesitation. The second mistake that quietly wrecks more homes than people want to admit is ignoring small leaks under sinks. I've seen this play out so many times over the years. Somebody notices a drip under the kitchen sink or the bathroom vanity. They slide a bowl underneath or wrap a rag around the fitting and figure they'll deal with it later. Here's what happens while you wait. That moisture soaks into the cabinet floor, wicks into the subfloor below, and mold starts colonizing in the dark where nobody can see it. By the time you notice a musty smell or the cabinet floor goes soft under your hand, you've got a remediation problem that costs thousands. I've pulled out vanities where the entire bottom was black with mold, and the subfloor underneath was spongy and starting to rot through. All from a drip that could have been fixed in 5 minutes with a pair of channel locks. Most under-sink leaks are simple. A slip joint nut on the P-trap that needs a quarter turn. A basket strainer gasket that dried out and cracked. A supply line weeping at the connection that just needs to be snugged or replaced. Make it a habit to get under every sink with a flashlight once a month. Run the water and watch every joint. Feel the supply lines with a dry hand. If anything is even slightly damp, fix it that same day. A 5-minute repair prevents a $5,000 nightmare. The third mistake, and this one drives me crazy because it's so avoidable, is over-tightening supply line connections. It feels logical, doesn't it? If snug is good, then really cranking it down must be better. But that thinking will cost you. Those braided stainless steel supply lines connecting your faucets and toilets to the angle stops have brass or plastic compression nuts on the ends. When you wrench past where they need to be, you crack the fitting. Sometimes the crack is immediate. Other times you create a hairline fracture that holds for weeks or months before it lets go at 2 in the morning while the whole family is asleep. I once walked into a home where the entire first floor was under 2 inches of water because a toilet supply fitting cracked overnight. It had been over-tightened during a remodel 6 months earlier. Hand tighten first, then 1/4 turn with a wrench, maybe a half turn at the absolute most. Turn the water on slowly and watch. If it drips, give it another eighth of a turn. The moment it stops, you stop. Your gut will scream at you to go a little more for insurance. Fight that instinct every time. Snug is the word you want, not tight. Snug. By the way, if you're finding this advice helpful, do me a small favor and hit that subscribe button down below. I put out new videos like this one every week, walking you through repairs that'll save you a small fortune in plumber bills. Subscribing is free, and it's the best way to make sure you don't miss the next one. All right, let's continue. The fourth mistake on our list is pouring grease down the kitchen drain. Now listen, I understand why people do it. Hot pan of bacon grease, blast of hot water, seems like the fastest cleanup in the world. But that grease starts cooling the moment it hits the drain pipe. It doesn't travel far before it starts congealing on the inner walls. Over weeks and months, layer after layer accumulates. It traps food particles, soap residue, and everything else flowing through until the pipe narrows to almost nothing. If that grease makes it to your sewer lateral, the underground pipe connecting your house to the city main, you're looking at a professional clearing job running anywhere from $300 to $5,000, depending on how bad it's gotten and whether the line needs excavation. The fix costs you absolutely nothing. Keep an old coffee can or a mason jar near the stove. Pour your grease in after cooking. Let it cool and solidify. Toss it in the regular trash. One old coffee can under the sink saves you a sewer line bill. That might be the best trade in all of home maintenance. The fifth mistake hits especially hard in cold climate regions, and that's leaving garden hoses connected to your outdoor faucets heading into winter. I spent my entire career in western Pennsylvania, where the winters don't mess around, and every single spring I'd get calls from homeowners with water pouring out of a wall and no idea where it came from. Here's the mechanics. When a hose stays threaded onto the hose bib, water remains trapped inside the faucet body and in the short stub of pipe just inside the exterior wall. It does not matter if you turned the handle off. That water is still sitting right there. When temperatures drop below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, the trapped water expands as it turns to ice. That expansion is powerful enough to crack copper pipe, split a brass faucet body, or blow out a soldered joint. The especially cruel part is you often don't discover the damage until spring when you turn the faucet on and water starts spraying inside the wall instead of coming out the spout. Every fall, before the first hard freeze, disconnect every garden hose from every outdoor faucet. Drain them and store them. If you have an interior shutoff valve that feeds a specific outdoor faucet, close it from inside and then open the outdoor faucet to let remaining water drain out of the line. If your home has frost-free silcocks, the long-stemmed type designed to seat the valve well inside the heated wall, they only work as intended when nothing is attached to the end. Leave a hose connected and you defeat the entire design. The sixth mistake is using chemical drain cleaners as a regular maintenance habit. Those big-name liquid drain openers sold at every grocery store are serious industrial chemicals. Most use sodium hydroxide or sulfuric acid. They generate extreme heat to dissolve clogs, but that same heat and chemical aggression attacks your pipes every time you pour it down there. Cast iron drain lines corrode dramatically faster with repeated exposure. PVC lines can soften and warp at the joints from the heat generated during the reaction. I've met homeowners who pour a bottle down every drain monthly as prevention. I'll tell you, that's slowly destroying the very pipes you're trying to keep clear. For slow drains, use a hand-crank drum auger. A decent one costs $20 to $30 and lasts decades. For bathroom drains, the culprit is almost always hair-wrapped around the stopper mechanism. Pull it out, clean it off, and you're done. For kitchen sinks, try a flat-bottomed cup plunger with a few inches of water in the basin before reaching for anything else. You'd be amazed how often that solves the problem completely. Save the chemicals as an absolute last resort, and even then think twice about whether a plumber with a power snake is the smarter call. The seventh mistake that bleeds money month after month without anyone noticing is ignoring a running toilet. Between you and me, this is the one I had to nag my own family about for years. The toilet hisses briefly every 10 or 15 minutes, and because there's no visible leak on the floor, everyone assumes it's harmless. A running toilet can waste 200 gallons of water a day. Over a year, that adds up to hundreds of dollars on your water bill, and in areas with higher rates, it can be significantly more. The cause is almost always a worn flapper valve. That's the rubber disc at the bottom of the tank that seals the flush valve opening. Over time, the rubber stiffens, warps, or collects mineral deposits and stops sealing properly. Water trickles from tank into bowl, and the fill valve cycles on repeatedly to compensate. A replacement flapper costs $3 to $5 at any hardware store. Turn off the supply valve beneath the toilet, flush to empty the tank, unhook the old flapper from the overflow tube, and snap the new one into place. 5-minute job, tops. If the new flapper doesn't solve it, the next suspect is the fill valve itself, about a $15 part and a 15-minute replacement. Either way, there's no good reason to let a running toilet go. That's easy money back in your pocket every single month. The eighth mistake that catches even experienced do-it-yourselfers off guard is using the wrong sealant or tape on threaded plumbing connections. PTFE, thread seal tape, and pipe joint compound both have their place, but they are not interchangeable in every situation. When using tape, wrap it clockwise around the male threads as you face the open end of the fitting. 3 to 5 wraps pulled snug into the thread grooves. Wrap it the wrong direction and it bunches and unravels the moment you thread things together, giving you zero seal. Now here's the part most people miss entirely. Compression fittings and flare fittings do not get tape or dope. Those connections seal metal to metal through a ferrule, or a flared tube end. Adding sealant actually prevents the mating surfaces from contacting properly and causes the exact leak you were trying to prevent. And for gas lines, you must use yellow gas-rated tape or gas-rated pipe joint compound specifically. Standard white tape is not tested or approved for gas service. That's not just a leak risk, it's a genuine safety hazard. Take your time on this one, and make sure you're matching the right product to the right connection every single time. Now, the ninth mistake, and this is the one I warned you about at the top because I've personally watched it destroy entire pipe runs from the inside out, is connecting dissimilar metals without a dielectric union. Here's a scenario I've encountered dozens of times. An older home has galvanized steel water lines throughout the house. Someone makes a repair or adds a fixture using copper pipe. They thread a copper adapter directly onto the galvanized fitting and call it done. Looks perfectly fine from the outside, but the moment those two different metals make direct contact in the presence of water, galvanic corrosion begins. One metal attacks the other at a molecular level. The joint corrodes invisibly from the inside. The galvanized pipe develops mineral buildup and pinhole leaks. By the time you notice rusty water at the faucet or a stain spreading across the ceiling below, the damage is already extensive. The solution is straightforward. Install a dielectric union or dielectric nipple at every transition where copper meets galvanized steel. These fittings include a plastic insulating sleeve or washer that physically separates the two metals so the electrochemical reaction cannot occur. They cost a few dollars each and are required by plumbing code in virtually every jurisdiction in the country. If you own an older home and aren't sure what's behind your walls, Have a plumber assess the situation, especially if you've noticed gradual pressure drops or brownish water. The 10th and final mistake on this list is skipping permits on major plumbing work. I get the temptation completely. Permits cost money, inspections take time, and when you're doing the work yourself, the process feels like pure bureaucratic hassle. But here's the thing, and don't let anybody tell you different. Plumbing code protects your family from genuinely dangerous outcomes. Improperly vented drain lines allow sewer gas containing methane and hydrogen sulfide into your living space. Cross connections without backflow prevention can contaminate your drinking water supply. When you skip the permit, nobody checks the work, and the consequences often show up years later when you try to sell the house. Inspectors catch unpermitted work. Title companies flag it. Buyers walk away from deals over it. I've seen homeowners forced to tear out finished bathrooms and redo plumbing entirely at their own expense because the original work was never inspected. The permit fee for typical residential plumbing runs between $50 and a few $100s, depending on your municipality. That's nothing compared to demolishing a tiled bathroom because the rough-in was never looked at. Pull the permit. Schedule the inspection. Do it right the first time. All right, now for the bonus tip I've been saving, and this one punches way above its weight. Go buy yourself a pack of battery-powered water leak detectors. These are small, disc-shaped sensors about the size of a hockey puck that sit flat on the floor and sound a loud alarm the instant they detect moisture. They run about $10 to $15 each. Place one under every sink in the house, one behind each toilet, one near the water heater, and one behind the washing machine. Those 4 spots account for the vast majority of household water damage events. Nearly every mistake I covered today causes leaks or failures that happen while you're asleep or away from home. A leak detector won't prevent the failure, but it screams at you within seconds, so you can sprint to that main shutoff valve and kill the water before serious damage sets in. I've had 2 go off in my own house over the years, once under the kitchen sink when a drain fitting loosened up, and once behind the toilet when a supply line started weeping at the connection. Both times I caught the problem in minutes instead of discovering it hours later. A $10 device saved me thousands in damage both times. That's how my Uncle Ray taught me, and that's how I'm teaching you. Before you go, if you got something out of this video, do me one last favor and hit that subscribe button. I put out new videos every week covering real-world plumbing repairs, money-saving tips, and the kind of know-how that takes years to pick up on the job. Subscribing costs you nothing, and it makes sure these videos show up in your feed when you need them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.